Hi, everyone. Welcome to the LCS edition of the Walkoff. I mean, we've talked now about the division series, we've talked about the wild card series, and we are finally here at the LCS. We talked about last episode what happened in the DS and where we are, excuse me, in the DS and how we led up to the CS. We are finally here. The CS is finished. We had two 7-game series, very exciting stuff. Um, for both sides. I have a firm belief about the National League side, um, obviously as a Phillies fan. But let's kick it off with the AL side. I think two great series, two really great teams. I mean, this is the first the Astros would lose in 7 games. Not a single game. Sorry, not a single game. The home team won. The away team won every single game.
Crazy. And also, I think another crazy part of this is so many, I don't want to say no name guys, but I guess you could kind of use that name. So many guys that are unknown, Adolis Garcia being a perfect example, that are having huge impacts and are having, the games of their lives when it counts the most. And, that's what I love about October baseball so much is that a lot of the times it's these guys that, uh, sometimes don't even go on to have great careers, that just have these games that lead them in history forever. And not saying that that'll be the case with Garcia. Obviously, we don't know, but although he's Garcia is not exactly a guy that's 21, 22 years old. He's been trying to play baseball for a long time now. He's in his late 20s. I know the pictures been going around of him. I think in like rookie ball only a few years ago. So he's come a long way, and it's just really fun to see. Who would have thought? I know certainly me and you didn't, that a team like the Rangers would come in and play as well as they have against a team like the Astros. It's just so many of the like I said, guys that you wouldn't think would do this are just carried them this series, and it was really crazy to see, and really good for baseball too. I mean, a guy like Adolis Garcia becoming a star is nothing but positive for the game.
Yeah, he's had a great season so far this year, but this postseason has been so electric to watch. I'm having a fun time. Little fun story about Adolis Garcia. So the Cardinals now are notoriously known for making these awful trades in the future. So one of those awful trades, one of them was Randy Arozarena. He was traded, and later he won Rookie of the Year. Sandy Alcantara traded in the Marcelo Ozuna trade. Zach Gallen traded to Miami, and then from Miami traded to Arizona, which is the other team that won. Now, Adolis Garcia is on that list. He got traded for cash considerations to the Rangers. The Rangers DFA'd him. And if you don't know what DFA means, it basically means that 29 other teams can basically say, oh, we want him, or he'll go to the minors, or just be a free agent. They keep him. 2 years ago, he does good in spring training. He gets the contract. Now he's a star. So you love to see it. Some smaller names in this series: Evan Carter, Leodis Taveras. I mean, excuse me, I'm a little sick today. I not as much sick, but definitely get my
I don't
nostrils.
understand.
Okay, sorry about that. But my nostrils definitely are going to be giving up a little bit. But I mean, a great series. We saw Max Scherzer come back, which I'm interested to hear about how you thought of him, Anthony, because I knew coming out of this he was going to have trouble, and that's exactly what happened. Um, game 7 he was a little bit better, or game 6 he was a little bit better, but nonetheless, I mean, I knew he was going to come out and he was going to struggle.
I kind of had the negative approach of he's gonna play great just because I'm a negative Mets fan. But yeah, I mean, in the back of my head, this is a guy that even to the media was saying I'd never been in a position like this before where I haven't pitched in months, and now I'm going and pitching playoff, obviously a huge playoff series. So even he himself was hesitant about it. And yeah, I wasn't shocked, to be honest with you. he looked terrible, and he was gonna look terrible. It's a playoff series against the Astros, obviously a great team, and he looked how he looked. Max Scherzer, ever since he joined the Dodgers, back a couple of years ago now, has just come up short in every big game, and that doesn't even include playoff games. You go back to 2022 with the Mets, the Braves series at the end of the season, which might as well have been a playoff series, but still wasn't. He pitched terrible. And then obviously the wild card game, everybody knows what happened, pitched terrible. And so do I necessarily put it on him for this season? No, I mean he was coming back from an injury. I more criticize Bruce Bochy for putting him out there. I think they got very lucky that he didn't do even worse. He very easily could have given up a grand slam, and he didn't. He still pitched badly, but he easily could have had a disastrous outing, and the game could have really gotten away from him quickly in like a first inning or something like that. But luckily it didn't. It wasn't that bad. It was bad, but it wasn't that bad. But yeah, I'm honestly just shocked to see Jacob deGrom, Scherzer potentially winning a World Series where both of them had like nothing to do with it. If you would have told people that prior to the season, they wouldn't have believed it.
No, and it's weird. Like I've heard a bunch of Mets fans say that they don't want the Rangers to win because they don't want DeGrom to get a ring. You want to know what? I get it. I understand it. But it's just how it is. Now, talking about Scherzer, he's now played this is his 10th year. Or he's played 10 years in the playoffs. I apologize. 10 years in the playoffs. I just lost it. And he's played in 19 series. So in those series, he is 7-8 with a 3.86 ERA, 24 starts, 140 innings. Not awful, not awful. But his worst is his ALCSs when he was with Detroit. When he had a 5 ERA, but this is not that much far behind. And the NL wildcard. Anyway, sorry. I digress. Max Scherzer, I'm not saying he's Clayton Kershaw. Clayton Kershaw is another level of awful in the postseason. I mean, that is his notorious name. I'm not saying he will never be a Hall of Famer. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer, if you ask me. But Max Scherzer in the playoffs, not the best guy to go to, in my opinion. I honestly, and this might come as a hot take because they both came at the same time, I would have rather seen John Gray, and then you give it to Max Scherzer in like the 8th.
No, I wouldn't do that. I would. I was with you when you were saying give it to John Gray. I give it to virtually anybody besides Scherzer.
Okay.
Because and listen, I mean, I'm a firm believer in that Max Scherzer's really fallen off. He's not what he was, but it's not fair to give the guy a ball. He hadn't pitched in like what 2 months. It was a month and a half, whatever it was. This is the championship series. You don't play around. It's simple as that. And even if you were to start a guy that was on short rest, whatever you got to do, you got to do. And so, like I said, I think they got very lucky that it wasn't worse than what it was. Scherzer, he's not a guy that I look at necessarily that was great in the playoffs or was terrible in the playoffs. I think he was adequate. He was fine. He had his good moments, obviously, with in 2019 with the Nationals. He was kind of on his last rope with his arm, and he came in there and played really well. So I give him a lot of credit for that. But I think that was kind of his last, that he gave all he had really, and I think in that 2019 season. Because if you look ever since then, it's been bad. It's been a steep downfall, and I think he's never really recovered from his arm essentially just tearing off his body in that season. If you look back at that, people forget he had a lot of injuries. He pitched through them, and he helped win them a championship, which he deserves a ton of credit for. And Washington fans should be very happy with him for that. But he's never recovered. And I think there's a reason for that. I mean, he's constantly had arm issues since then. He's pushing 40. I don't know how much he's got left in the tank, but in playoff series, I certainly would never trust him again. Even if he didn't have the layoff, but with a layoff, it's even more reason for me not to trust him.
He's 39 years old. He'll be 39 at the start of next season. but he'll be 40 midway through. So this is, I mean, there's got to be a point. There has to be a point when you say, okay, maybe you should think about retiring. And that's something that he just doesn't want to hear. That's not probably the best thing he wants to hear. Since 2019, he is sporting a 2.94 ERA, but I feel like it goes deeper. Because if you look at it, he's played for 4 teams. Traveling and being with new crews, I mean, Anthony, stop me if I'm wrong, but it does a lot to you mentally. You're not working with the same backstop every day. I mean, think of how good it is that, pitchers that, like, I don't want to sound like a typical Phillies fan, but like Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler, they always get to work with JT Realmuto. But if you're Max Scherzer, 1 year you're working with Will Smith, the next year you're working with Kurt Suzuki, then you're working with Jose Alvarez, and now you're working with Austin Hedges. In the matter of 3 years, 4 different catchers. That can do a lot too. It can do a lot too. And not to mention, he only, like, the 2020 season was not that long. So, I mean, that's all I have to say about that. But you definitely will be seeing his retirement soon. He cannot keep this pace up that much longer. And excuse me, sorry again. But yeah. But besides that, Rangers, I mean, they look unstoppable right now. It's been very fun to watch them. And this is the first World Series since 2016. 2016, when the Cubs and the Cleveland Indians at the time went to the World Series. This is the first time since then that the Astros or the Dodgers aren't in the World Series.
I saw that and I couldn't believe. I mean, obviously the Astros have been carrying that. I mean, the Dodgers have been on, So I mean, but even then, I was like, wow. And then I thought about it. I was like, yeah, it makes sense. But yeah, I'm happy to see 2 teams like this in there. I know there's been a lot of the ratings for this might not be the best and all that, and the Phillies getting knocked out, especially, was, everybody was saying the Fox executives were pissed, or we're going to be pissed, whatever. But to me, I look at it like, yeah, you know what? There's expanded playoffs. Whether you're for or against it, these teams went out there. They drove these teams to Game 7, and they beat them fair and square. That's it. And I give them credit for that. I can't take away, even if it was the Mets, even if I was in your position and my team had just gotten beaten, and I give you a lot of credit, because if I was in your position right now, I'd be going off on an 80-minute tirade. So you got a lot more self-control than me. But even if it was the Mets and that happened, I would not go on a rant about how, this is expanded playoffs and this team didn't even deserve to be there. First of all, you can't say that, because any team, this could happen with any team. You have a year where, you don't win 110 games. You could get in now and you could go to a World Series. It's an even playing ground for everybody. And another thing is, if you're that good of a team, you beat that team. Simple as that. And so, nobody can convince me. You go back in time to 1998 and take that Yankees team, which is arguably the best team in MLB history. Nobody could tell me that you'd take them in this playoff format. You give them 2-3 days rest, that they're going to go and lose to the Phillies or the Diamondbacks or whoever. It's not going to happen. And so that's my point, is that I think this playoff format kind of exposes some frauds. And I understand some of the frustration from fans, but I think it's wrong.
I agree. I'll be honest with you. Last night was an awful night for me. Watching the Phillies loss was heartbreaking. But you wake up today, and a lot of Philly fans are still angry, but there's a difference between Phillies fans and me, which I am a Phillies fan diehard, and I will always be a Philly diehard. But it goes Philly, and then I am a baseball fan. I know it's not the best thing for baseball, but I mean, I'm going to say this: I don't condone betting to start off, but this is just what it is. So Las Vegas, in the preseason, they put their who's most likely to make the World Series. 22 was the Texas Rangers out of 30 teams. 26 was the Arizona Diamondbacks. I mean, yeah, Believe me, trust me, it would have been great to watch the Phillies and the Astros play again, a little rematch action. But who cares? Like, I don't care. Like, I care because I'm a Phillies fan. I want to see new teams in there. I want to see, younger teams in there, teams like the Diamondbacks that are fun. Zach Gallen is fun to watch. I know he had a rough series. He's fun to watch. It is fun to watch Merrill Kelly at 33 years old. And I know I said this last week that I don't think he can beat the Phillies, but he did it. He did it. He went out there and he balled against the Phillies in his second game. And I'm not the Phillies went cold. The Phillies went ice cold. It was rough to watch. They went ice cold the minute they hit Arizona. And in interviews, you'll hear them say, the minute we got to Arizona, we got cold. I don't know if it was because they were just burnt out or whatever. But you're still going against 9 players who have been to the World Series. Or, a lineup that last year went to the World Series. And you haven't been in the playoffs since 2017. That's impressive. That's really impressive. I'm annoyed at the Phillies, but you got to give credit where credit's due. It is Diamondbacks killed it. It'll be an exciting World Series. People may be saying right now that the Rangers are just going to like mow over the Diamondbacks. I don't think so, because everyone said that about every series that the Diamondbacks have played so far. I mean, the Diamondbacks are going to get mowed over by the Brewers. Wrong. The Diamondbacks are going to get mowed over by the Dodgers. Wrong. Diamondbacks are going to get mowed over by the Phillies. They were down 2-0, and then they got to game 7, and then they beat us at home 2 times in a row. So don't go saying that the Texas Rangers are just going to mow over Diamondbacks. This is going to be a fun series. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes the distance.
I wouldn't be shocked if it goes 7 games either. I think these are 2 very similar teams. I think the Diamondbacks are, along with the Texas Rangers, but especially the Diamondbacks right now, are playing hot, and they're playing with a chip on their shoulder. I mean, you see virtually everybody in sports media, including us, we're counting them out. And so, I think when you get that underdog mentality and you have the talent, it's a dangerous combo. It's a very dangerous combo. I mean, you could get the underdog mentality. Anybody could get that, but this team's got talent everywhere. You mentioned Merrill Kelly came out there. I wasn't a fan of what Lavolo did, taking him out so early. I thought that was going to be the moment that the Phillies came back. I thought it really honestly gave you guys life. It was the dumbest thing they could have done, but they got away with it. And so, if Kelly keeps this up, and some of these young guys don't fall under the bright lights of the World Series, which if they haven't fallen yet, then I don't see them falling now. I can see them winning this. As shocking as this is, because if you take us back to April when we were sitting in the WMSC studio, you, me, and Justin, and any of us said the Diamondbacks, we would have looked at each other like we were nuts. But it's a reality, and the fact is, we look back at baseball history. I know this is a new baseball format and the playoff format, but there's been plenty of underdogs that go and win. And my team included 1969 Mets. It was a big, upset. And this could be an upset too. So I love upsets. I love underdogs going and winning. And I also love how, it's kind of the big story now is, I don't know if you've heard, I'm sure you've heard the Mad Dog Russo thing. Where
yes.
I'll retire if they win, and then they go win, and they're chanting his name in the clubhouse. I found that whole situation so funny and just so entertaining. And I like it when a team plays with a chip on their shoulder and proves people wrong, especially people like Mad Dog that have been in the sports business so as long as he have as much credibility as he has. And to prove a guy like that wrong it's cool.
Yeah, it was very fun to talk. I think we can now move on to the NLCS since we've been talking about it for a little bit. So the NLCS, it looked like Philly had control going into Arizona. They lost control right there. I could talk for hours about this Phillies team. It was extremely fun to watch them. I went to a couple games this year. I saw them a couple times. You could tell something was different for this team. It was very fun. The Diamondbacks, on the other hand, they had something different. But they come back home and you think that it's going to be lights out, and it wasn't. It was a fun looking back, I mean, you should have seen me last night. Someone had to bang on I was at my friend's dorm who lives right next door to me. So I was there and I was watching the game and I got so loud that someone banged on the door and told me to shut up. So and I mean, Anthony, you know me, and I swear how I'm around you is how I'm around everyone, where I'm just like I don't get very angry. Like I'm just very I like to think that I'm very
You're
cool
low
headed.
key. I could vouch. I could. Vincent's a very low key person. What he is on the on this show, for anybody that listens, is what he is on campus and class. I'd be very surprised to see you yelling and going nuts because I mean I do that, but I have that personality a little bit. You're very very low key.
You should have seen me last night. I was screaming my head off. I was going insane. It was rough. But I mean it feels bad because this you want to know what this shows? First of all, it's not the bracket. If it was the bracket, then I don't know. But it looked like Philly was really going to win the series, and then Arizona had a really, really good time at their place. I mean, Craig Kimbrell blew it twice, but so much fun to watch. So many great highlights. And for all the teams that are eliminated now, the Astros, no more Dusty Baker. Dusty Baker's leaving. The manager who I believe is 73 or 77. I'm going to look this up right now because I saw it and I was amazed. 74, right? A little no. Retiring. I mean, I don't know about I've never really stopped not liking the Astros, but the two people that I really do love on the Astros and I've always loved on the Astros is there's three players. I love Kyle Tucker, I love Yordan Alvarez, and I love Dusty Baker. I've always loved Dusty Baker. So I'm sad that he's gonna retire, but you gotta be happy for him. For Philly, I mean, Aaron Nola and Rhys Hoskins are a question to come back. They probably won't. Philly said earlier that Aaron Nola wants an 8 or 9 year deal, and they were only going to give him a 3 or 4. So he's probably not coming back. But there are so many teams out there that need starting pitching, and he's a great starter for them. Same thing with Rhys. Just Bryce is at first base now, so Rhys probably won't be coming back. Anyways, I digress a little bit again. The Phillies just hit cold, and Rob Thompson said it. I think people that blame the manager, and even in the Astros game, in the Astros and Phillies, this is not the manager's fault. I'll say Kimbrel coming in was bad for the Phillies, but Dusty Baker and Rob Thompson did a great job managing. You don't go to 7 games because you have a bad manager. That's just not how it is. Like the other team just played harder than you, and they just played better than you. And sometimes it's not even your fault. Sometimes it's players on the field. I mean, the last 2 games of the series, I think, what was it? It was like 3-0 for 6s. I think the Phillies went. Wait, I have it. Give me one quick second. My brother Leonardo sent it to me. So Leonardo, if you're listening to this, game 6 and 7, the top 4 hitter or Bryce Harper, Trey Turner, Nick Castellanos, and Kyle Schwarber went 1 for 31. I mean, that's your lineup, and then you're not doing it. And Bryce Harper said that, this was just he let the city down. I don't know. I don't want to harp on it for too long because I know we have other stuff to talk about. I mean, the World Series is gonna be awesome. But last thing, I'm not saying anything, but I mean, us in sports, sometimes you have to look for patterns, and you have to see how things work. So 2009, the Phillies go to the World Series, they lose the World Series. 2010, they go to the NLCS and they lose the NLCS. 2011, they go to the NLDS and lose the NLDS. And in 2012, they're out of the playoffs. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but I can really see this happening for Philly. Harper and Turner, they're great, but they're going to be 32 or 33 by the end of this. So I don't know how many more Red Octobers I'll see, but it is fun to watch Philly. And when I'm not watching Philly, I will definitely be watching Baltimore. They feel like the Red October of the AL. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you on Phil. I mean, I'm not going to go as far to say that they're 100% going to flame out, but it's heading in that direction. Especially, the biggest concern is the pitching staff. There's not many pieces on that staff that I could say I'm confident in. One that I'm 100% confident in, Zach Wheeler. I mean, what he did yesterday was extremely impressive. To come in, hold the fort down like that, he deserves all the credit in the world. He made it look like it was just a random Wednesday night game in May or something. You know, you would never have thought this was Game 7 of the championship series. But it begs the question, and I know it's tough, but should he have started the game? Because Ranger Suarez was bad. You know, there's no way around it. He had a bad game, and I get it. You know, we don't want to pitch a guy too much, even in a game. But it's the bottom line. I look at it as it's Game 7, and you know, all bets are off. Really, I mean, outside of a guy throwing 100 pitches the day before, everybody's on the table. And the way Wheeler looked, I'm not saying I would have put him for 6 innings, but he could have gone maybe 4 or 5, and maybe that's enough to get you that win. There's no, you know, it's we don't know. It's a hypothetical. There's no point in really going over it too much, but I think it's something worth talking because Rob Thompson isn't going to go anywhere, and I'm not going to say he should. He didn't do anything necessarily that I would say, you know, killed the team or anything. But looking back at that, I mean, Zach Wheeler's is 100% your best pitcher, and he's killed it this whole playoffs. And him coming in late in the game like that out of the bullpen only showed you more that he's your ace, and he's your ace for years to come. Barring injuries, he's had injury issues, but barring injuries, he's your ace for years to come. Game 7, I'm sorry. I mean, I think about it as if we had Prime DeGrom. When Prime DeGrom was going, when he wasn't injured, I wanted him in Game 7. I don't care if he pitched 2 days before. I want him in Game 7. And I look at, I mean, Wheeler doesn't get the credit, but Wheeler is like a DeGrom right now. And so I don't know about you, but I want him in Game 7.
You want to know what? I didn't really think about that. But I like that. You're right. Ranger did not pitch good. I love Ranger, but his pitches are a fastball sinker, change, and curve. So the pitchers are really just moving like this, down, down, and then here. So you're not really even if I'm up to bat and I go, okay, well, the pitch is probably going to go down, then I can feel like, okay, well, now change up. Wheeler, on the other hand, when you mix in a slider, my favorite pitch in any arsenal is always the slider. Because the slider can make every pitch better. When you have, I was never a pitcher, so I don't really know what I'm talking about all the time. But when you have the slider, right, and you got this sinker, so it's going this way, and then you got your slider, which goes this way, the deception that you can use for the curveball or the changeup when it's coming down, you don't have to worry about people just thinking, okay, well, if the pitch is going to be, if I see it and it's kind of, if I see it and it's down the middle, then I know it's going to be somewhere around here. I'm not thinking, okay, it's going to move over here. It's going to move over here. Like, that's what Wheeler has. And that's what I love about Wheeler. And that's what I love about Nola. I mean, he has a slider. I think I know pitching coaches will say differently, and they'll have probably a different pitch, but just personally, it makes me feel so much more confident when there's a slider in your pitch arsenal. And he doesn't have that. There wasn't a single inning that he went where he had a 1-2-3. I mean, the first inning he gave up a run on a ground out, and continuously struggled. Wheeler comes in. We finally get somewhere going. I think if you were bringing in Wheeler, you should keep him in 4. Just have him go 4 innings, and if he looks fine, then keep him going. But I like that idea. I liked that idea. I can understand why the Phillies didn't go with it because he was only on 2 days rest, and they probably just didn't want to risk injuries, let alone win Game 7. But I like that idea. But now moving on to the World Series, we have been talking the entire season. I mean, from literally day 1 of the season, we had our first show, not our first show, but we had a show on day 1 of the season. we're almost at day 0, basically. Or not day 0, but the end. We're at the end of the 2023 season. Are you ready for this World Series?
I am. I'm hyped for it. Like I said, I know there's been a narrative. Oh, the teams aren't in it, aren't big teams, and maybe the ratings will be down. These are two teams that don't have huge baseball cities, and I get that, but I'm still excited to see two underdog teams, two teams that haven't won in forever. I mean, in the Rangers case, they haven't won the World Series ever, I think, right? I mean, yeah, they've never won a World Series.
They've never won the World Series, and
Yeah.
the Diamondbacks won their first World Series, and they are the fastest expansion team to win the World Series.
Yeah, and that was when they beat the Yankees in 01. Yeah, so I'm all for seeing underdogs play each other, and especially young and exciting teams like these teams. So yeah, I mean, I saw a tweet that there's 2 players in the series playing that were born in 2002, and that's how young these teams are. And that's exciting to me. I don't need to see a team like the Phillies, team like the Braves, a team like the Astros to be excited for a World Series. I get that on a national level that might be true, but for me, I'm just as excited to see Merrill Kelly go out there and face, Corey Seager, face Evan Carter, face all these guys that have been playing great. And, I'm hyped for it. I'm hyped for it.
I am hyped. I mean, I wish I was in the World Series, but I wouldn't go to the extent that I'm saying that this is better than like a Phillies World Series or something like that. Because this is gonna be a lot of fun because I cannot tell you who's gonna win this one right now, but I don't know if the ratings will be as good as we wanted them to. I doubt they will. I mean, already the postseason ratings have been a little bit low, but they've been fun games. I've seen people that says that this postseason's mid. I get it. Like the wild card series was all sweeps, and then the DS series there was only 2 games lost by the winners. So I can understand that, but there's been so much fun to watch. I mean, you're watching so many new teams in the playoffs. It's a new time for baseball. We've seen it. I mean, we've been following all 30 teams for the entirety of the year. Sorry. And it's been so much fun. You get to see every team build up. When we said our preseason predictions, I said that the Rangers could be a really good team this year. I remember, Anthony, you said that they need one more piece, and it's so exciting to see these teams. I said the Diamondbacks just needed one more piece. I think you said they were ready. I mean, look at these 2 teams now. It is so exciting to watch. I'm excited from a baseball lover standpoint for this one because I don't want to go to the extent to say there's no big names in it, but no Manny Machado, no Juan Soto, no Tatis, no Alvarez, no Altuve, no Harper, no Ronald Acuna Jr., no Shohei, who we've never seen in the playoffs. But I mean, no big names, which will mean big names will be made.
That's what I was just gonna say. I 100% seeing this, see this being even more of a series where you learn about guys more than where we already know, which for a lot of these guys we don't know all that much. Because I mean, I've kept up a little bit with the Rangers and Diamondbacks, but how much can you keep up with a team that is on the other side of the country pretty much from where you are? We're so focused on Mets, Phillies, Yankees, all that, local teams. And to see teams like this that just a couple years ago, these are teams that were losing 100 games. I mean, we're not talking 5 years ago, we're talking 2 years ago. I remember in the Diamondbacks case, they lost 110 games in 2021. They were the worst team in baseball by far. Texas Rangers were also one of the worst teams. They weren't that bad, but they were pretty bad. They had like 70 wins, whatever it was. And so we're talking about 2 teams that have made a really big step. And to me, it's exciting to see. I like that. I like that now. If you do things right, which these teams have, obviously the Rangers have spent way more than the Diamondbacks, and I've seen critics for that, which is just stupid. They spent and it's gone well. They should get applauded for that. But anyway, These are two teams that have been built right, and they're being rewarded for it. And I'm shocked to see it happen. I didn't think there was any universe in which the Rangers would hop into Houston, beat the Astros in 7 games. Now I do have some thoughts. I mean, you mentioned Dusty Baker. You didn't think he did anything. I don't. Did he lose the series for the Astros? I'm not going to go that far, but his bullpen management in Game 7 was questionable, very questionable, and it's going to get kind of swept under the rug now because he's retiring, and his career should be applauded. I'm not saying that, but he left guys in there that didn't deserve to be in the spot they were. Like, I'll give you a specific name: Jonathan Patrick France. I know nothing about this guy, and for a good reason. He's not anything special. He's one of the mid to end mid to end bullpen guys in their bullpen. He got, the most time out there. He was led to give up 4 earned runs. Hunter Brown was given 2 innings, 1 earned run. It goes back. I get it. You don't want to pitch these guys too much. They're pitching very close to each other, but you got to go at your best. Go with Hunter Brown for a few innings if you need to. I'm not going to lead my fate in Jonathan Patrick France. And even though he went to Neris after that, I'm not going to leave my fate with him either. I'm going to leave my fate with the guys that are the best. And I don't know. It's easy to critique and be the Monday morning quarterback, so to speak. But to me, and even in that situation where I was watching the game live, I was sitting there like, wait a minute, who is this guy and why is Dusty giving him such a long leash? So I don't know. I digress. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Bruce Bochy already is a Hall of Famer, and or was about to become a Hall of Famer. We know what I mean. Or he was about to be a Hall of Famer, and he's only adding on to his legacy. Never lost the Game 7, and he kept that up. Which I thought that was a really cool stat. Bruce never lost the Game 7. Dusty never won a Game 7. So either the streak was going to go or the streak was going to end. So I think that was cool that the streak kept up. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. And I just counted back in 2021, which was 2 years ago now. 5 of the 12 teams in the playoffs today were not in the playoffs or were under 500. The Orioles, Twins, Rangers, Diamondbacks, and Marlins. So, I mean, talk about fun playoffs. Talk about how exciting this has been. I mean, for people saying that, like, oh, well, the Yankees weren't in the playoffs, the Mets weren't in the playoffs, the Cardinals weren't in the playoffs, the Red Sox weren't in the playoffs. Yeah, but, like, you got to see some pretty cool new faces, some pretty cool new players that you usually don't get to see. I mean, the next guy that we have to see in the playoffs is Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani, which they haven't been in the playoffs since 2014. And Shohei has never seen October light. So yeah. We're now working into the World Series. So when we talk next, it will be the middle of the World Series because it's World Series. So we'll talk about that. Where do you think these teams lie by the end of the series? So let's make our predictions now. World Series starts Friday. By Monday, it'll be Game 3. Game 3 is on Monday, later on Monday after our show. And Game 4 is Halloween.
I'm going to go. You mean in terms of how the whole series is going to go, or where are we going to
How do you think the series? Okay, here's my 2 things. I'm so sorry. My nose today. Who do you think will win the series? How many games? And who's your World Series MVP?
That's a good one. That's a very good one. I'm gonna go with the Diamondbacks. Okay. I'm not gonna count them out any longer. I've counted them out pretty much every episode we've had. If you go back and listen to them, I give them credit, but I've never truly given them credit by really predicting anything special for them. So now I am. I'm gonna say they're gonna win it. I'm gonna say it's gonna go all 7 games. I really see that. Would I be shocked if it only goes 6? No, but I don't know. I feel like these games are going to be played so closely. I see 7 games. MVP, I'm going to go Corbin Carroll. Because you know what? Corbin Carroll really impressed me. I mean, not that he needed to. I was obvious he was going to play well. He had a great season. And And once I saw after the first series that, he wasn't diminishing under the lights, I was like, okay, this guy's going to have a really good playoffs. But he's had even better than that. I mean, he's looked like a 20-year veteran, plain and simple. You forget the guy's age sometimes. I mean, I'm watching him and I'm like, oh, yeah, he hasn't been in the league 10 years. He's new to the league. It's just, you forget it. But in that Philly series, man, he impressed the hell out of me. He did. That is a tough Phillies team to face on all fronts. And he made it look easy. And so I'm going to say Corbin Carroll is going to really lead the charge for them in that series. I think they need him to. If he's not running on all cylinders, they're not going to win. But I think he is. I don't see it. Unless injury comes, I don't see any reason why he's going to stop. I think this is one of the postseasons where you're going to look back at him and say, wow, this is the moment he really stepped up. This is the moment where everybody, really nationally learns who Corbin Carroll is. So that's my prediction. 7 games for the Diamondbacks, Corbin Carroll MVP.
I like that. I mean, Corbin Carroll is now with Dustin Pedroia as the only 2 players, rookie players. I think it's rookie players. I'd have to look again. I'm actually on his stats right now. But rookie players with 3 hits in Game 7, and Pedroia had 5 RBIs. So I mean, Corbin Carroll, say whatever you want about him, he is a special kid. He's got a lot going for him. I remember preseason predictions said that he's like Bryce Harper, but instead of power, it's speed. And he showed that he has both power and speed. So he's been a very fun player to watch. I'm going to go Diamondbacks too. I think they're a fun team to watch. I think it also goes 7 games. The only reason I'm going to say Diamondbacks is because I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to go Rangers.
Ooh, last minute change.
I'm sorry. Here's the reason why. Last year, the Phillies looked like they had a really good team. They get to the Fall Classic and then they fall off. Not saying that, they're not saying that the Diamondbacks are due for the same fate, but young team, they've been balling out. I think this series does still go to 7 games, but I think that the Rangers take it from there. I think this because just the Rangers have a little bit more I'm just gonna say more talent in their lineup. I love the Diamondbacks lineup. I mean, going from Corbin to Ketel Marte to Gabriel Moreno to Pedro. Oh my gosh, Perdomo. Wait, I'm sorry. I can't. I love
to pronounce that guy. It's so good.
Oh, Geraldo Perdomo. I couldn't think of the first name. Geraldo Perdomo. Those 4 guys, I love them. They're doing great. Problem is the other 5 guys really aren't doing so hot. That's plain and simple. That's what it is. And usually one of those 5 guys will show out, but I'm not the 4 top guys. Usually Ketel's showing out and Carroll's showing out, and if it's not Carroll, it's one of the other 2. So when I look at the Rangers, I see Corey Seager, who's been in the Fall Classic before. I see Marcus Semien, who is, a top 3 and MVP candidate before. They have a little bit more experience behind them. And I think this is going to be a very offensive battle. I think Jordan Montgomery against Zach Gallen is going to be a fun game. And I hope Zach Gallen can bounce back in this Fall Classic because he didn't do – the Diamondbacks did really good, but Zach Gallen was not one of those guys that did really good in the playoffs or in the NLCS. He did good in the NLDS, but not the CS. I hope he bounces back. I hope he can. I love watching Texas. I've been behind them since the season, before the season even began. So I'm going to go Texas Rangers winning 7 games. And my MVP is going to be Marcus Semien.
Interesting. Okay. I'm glad, I'm glad you brought up Jordan Montgomery though, because we haven't given him the attention I think that he deserves, because
yes,
what a playoff he's had. I'm surprised. He's been a very good pitcher. I'm not going to take that away from him, but he's been like Hall of Fame level good in this playoffs. I don't know where it came from. I've like I said, good pitcher, but wow, has he been good? And I don't know how the Rangers, regardless of what happens, whether they win or lose, I don't know how they don't immediately bring him back after the season, because he's easily going to be the most highly coveted pitcher on the market. I would have to assume. Who doesn't want him? I'm not going to give him the mark that he can't perform in New York. I mean, I know with the Yankees it didn't go all that great, but you know what? You have as good of a playoff that you have. You kind of, I'll forget about that for now, especially from the Mets. So I'm really interested to see what happens to him in the World Series. Really interested, because he's had a historic, playoffs this season, and if he could do it against this, this impressive Diamondbacks lineup, he should get a pretty good deal in the offseason. A pretty good deal.
He is going to be getting some major dough. I mean, there's going to be some good free agents on the market, but I think besides Shohei, if there's anyone on the market that I want and I need a starter, I'm going Jordan Montgomery. I love Jordan Montgomery. I think Blake Snell is a little too inconsistent. And what we've seen from Jordan Montgomery these last 2 years has been unmatched. I love watching. I mean, him in the Houston series, he had 2 games. He pitched 14 innings flat, 2 runs, 1.29 ERA. That's awesome. He's only 30. You could sign him to a 4 or 5 year deal. You have potentially an ace. I mean, he is really, really good. And it looks like he has the stuff that he didn't have in New York, which is exactly what you said. Like, I don't want to say that he couldn't pitch in New York. I'm just saying that he didn't. He didn't really pitch good in New York, but like Sonny Gray did the same thing, and now he's balling out in Minnesota. There's a lot of names out there that have been doing really good for other teams once they leave New York. And I'm going to be honest with you. I know, let's not talk about the Yankees. Let's not go there, but I think it's starting to less become you can't play in New York and more becoming there is something wrong with the pitching over there. It's just the pitching coach. Like, something needs to be changed, because you cannot tell me that Sonny Gray leaves, he does amazing. Jordan Montgomery leaves, he does amazing. I mean, who are some other names? I mean, the list goes on and on of just players that leave and are amazing all of a sudden.
And then another thing is with the Yankees pitching is it's been so bad so long now that you can only blame players to a certain extent. At a certain point, it comes to a combination of general manager and, like you said, also the pitching coach. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think that there is something to some guys just don't like New York, especially the Bronx. The Yankee fans can be very vicious and everything. But yeah, there's something to the fact that the Yankees don't have a pitching team. It's not only even just the general manager and the pitching coach anymore. You got to realize there's whole teams behind this position. Like, there's guys that jobs are, to develop the pitching, to track their movement, to track their rest, to track. I mean, there's so much behind this stuff that we don't even grasp. And the Yankees, whatever they're doing, it ain't working. I don't care what they're claiming. I know they said, oh, we're going to bring in an outside organization and we're going to look, and whatever the story was, they were going to go look at other organizations, see how they run. If I'm a Yankee fan, I don't want to hear that BS. Figure it out. You're the New York Yankees. George Steinbrenner is turning in his grave, honestly, looking at this, because the Yankees, not that they ever were known necessarily for their pitching. They've always been a hitting team, but they were never this inept at the pitching. I mean, it's been, I would say, a solid 10, 15 years, and they've only had maybe a handful of guys that I could say are aces, 100% aces. The rest you could throw out. Guys with 3.5, 4 ERAs, they just balloon up, they get hurt, they get old, never works out. I mean, it's the same old story. It's like you're watching a movie for 50 times in a row. So, yeah, not to go on a Yankees tangent, but it's another example of that. And I would not let, I get the feeling that a major reason why the Mets didn't sign Sonny Gray He's been available plenty of times in the past off seasons. I think a major reason was they were scared after the season. You don't like to get players that have that vibe around them. Well, they can't handle New York. Do not let that happen with Jordan Montgomery. Do not, because this guy, you cannot have a playoffs, not just a series, but a whole playoff like this, and then not get a ton of money somewhere. So as a Nets fan, I want him. Steve Cohen should spell out big money for him. And as a Phillies fan, you should want him too, because he would really help you. Imagine him right behind Wheeler. I mean, come on.
It would be great. And then potentially have Andrew Painter and then Ranger Suarez. I mean, the last thing about the Yankees, I'll say, last thing, because I mean, trust me, we'll talk about basically every team this offseason. I mean, we have a long time to talk. So we'll be talking about a lot of different things in baseball that's going on and also outside of baseball. Definitely football, for sure. But anyways, if this postseason proves anything, I mean, the Giants and the Yankees are at least the two victims that I know. I know they do this. They look at statistics too much. And if this postseason proves anything, it's that sometimes you got to trust your gut. I don't always need to see a lefty-lefty matchup, right? Because he might choke. Like, you can leave in your righty pitcher against Bryce Harper. I'm not saying it's going to work every time, but I'm not saying the lefty is going to work every time. And the Yankees and Giants both are two teams that use statistics way too much. You're telling me that the Twins are using statistics like crazy? No. They got lucky that they won their division because they're in the worst division in baseball. But you have Sonny Gray on them. I mean, I like it. Why not? Why not? It's fun to watch. It's better to watch when, you don't have a book there and you're going, well, this happened 62 times out of 100 times. So I'm going to take him out right now. I don't know.
And this has been a problem. I mean, it's just been an endless argument that is going to continue about where do sabermetrics play into the game, where do they not. It really all started with Moneyball, Billy Bean. That was the biggest, that was kind of the birth of it, I guess you could say. And we saw it recently, Merrill Kelly taken out when he was dealing. I think he had like 95 pitches, could very easily went another inning. It didn't go another inning. Mm-hmm. I think it's why a lot of these, we did see a little bit of a resurgence in some older managers, but now a lot of these older managers are getting back out of the game. I don't know what's going to happen with Buck, but you just see continually now that any manager that isn't willing to just do what the front office wants kind of gets shoved out. And that was the rumor, after Buck got fired was, he was pushing back with Daniel Vogelback. And he said, I don't see any reason why I should keep keeping him on my team. Mets and Billy Epler thought, for whatever reason, I'm sure sabermetrics has something to do with it, whatever stats they were pulling, that they wanted him. I personally believe it was because, it was Billy Epler's guy, but whatever. Bottom line is bottom line. And any manager that's pushing back on that seems to be getting pushed out. And, I don't know. There's a happy medium. There's a way for you to use these stats in a great way. I think it's a very good thing that we've had so many new stats. The emergence of WAR as a stat over the past 15 years has been great. But there's also an element of human beings in this game. The reason why we love this game is because it's not played by robots that are AI. These guys are real people that we love to follow. They become celebrities. We love it. But these guys are playing the game. Emotion comes into it. Managers that have been in the game for 30 years know the game, know how it works, know when to take guys out. This makes me question I just criticized Dusty Baker 20 minutes ago, but was Dusty Baker given a, PDF file before the game of guys that needed to come in the game, needed to stay a few certain matters? We don't know. We'll never know. But it's just to have that question, I really think it hurts the game. Because in no other sport do you necessarily, you have sabermetrics in every sport now, but in football, you would never see, we gotta put the backup quarterback in now to face this formation of the defense. You wouldn't see that. You go with your best for as long as you can. I know that analogy is kind of, it's different, but my point that, sometimes you got to trust your gut. And these guys that have been in the game for a long time know what they're doing. And you got to trust that. That's why the hiring a manager should be so important. But now manager is just kind of a mouthpiece. and I do not like that about today's game. I like the old school manager that goes with their gut. That's something that I really miss from baseball.
I miss that too. I miss that too. We are winding down on our show now. We will be back Monday, which is very soon, very soon. And believe me, we are. I mean, for those who are listening right now, first of all, thank you for listening once again. It's always a pleasure to, you know, have you listen to us talk for an hour. But watch some good baseball. You know, I don't want to sound like some old guy out there that's like, don't let the media influence you. But seriously, like, if you don't want to watch the game, don't watch the game. But if you want to see some like pure baseball, not really some big stars, but some pure baseball and just have a good time, watch this. This is just gonna be fun. The narratives are gonna be made in the game. It's not like, you know, I mean, you either get to see what was it? Oh my gosh. You either get to see Jacob deGrom get his first ring or Evan Longoria get his first ring. And Evan Longoria's last time in the World Series was his rookie season back in 2008 against the Phillies. But I mean, go watch some baseball. It's not only is there nothing left after this, but we have a long break until our next season starts. And I mean, there's sports in between, but I don't know about you, Anthony, but the minute this World Series ends, I'll be waiting for the season to start up again.
I'll be waiting for I'm excited, kind of excited for the World Series 10 personally, just because I love to see the offseason stuff. And there's a lot
I
of
love seeing the offseason stuff, but only for so long. Then it's just like, all right.
yeah. I like it when the winter meetings. I will say this: immediately after the World Series, it gets very boring. The end of October, November, it gets for a while. There's nothing going on. But when the winter meetings start, trades happen, managerial hires, all that stuff. I enjoy that. It's kind of a game outside of the game, and I always like the off season process.
Speaking of that, I'm sorry, I forgot a big note that Bob Melvin will now be the San Francisco Giants manager, which
Interesting. It is interesting. Going with a veteran after the experiment they tried for the past few seasons. So.
Yeah, Gabe Kapler, probably not going to see another managerial job. He not the best, frankly. But yeah. So again, we are coming to the end of our show. We will see you very soon, as always. But come back Monday for sure. Thank you guys for coming.